Priscilla, bonjour.
Bonjour, hello.
Thank you so much for joining me in my podcast. Let me introduce you briefly. You are the founder of Priscilla Creative. It's a branding and creative agency. You are actually a serial entrepreneur. You have too many business for me to list them, but you have one that is called Inspired Founders, and it's a business network where you basically help business owners to achieve their goal and grow. And you are as well a podcast host, so I'm really happy to have you as a peer here. But last and not least, you are a mom. And I love having mom in my podcast, Mom Powerhouse Mama, because I have so much to learn from you. So thank you so much for joining me in my podcast.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm really excited for this because I've known you online for a little while now. We've chatted back and forth quite a few times, and it's so nice to be in your house. Thank you for having me here.
You're welcome.
And being on your podcast. So
yes, we were talking about this episode for a long time with Priscilla, so we have been able to make it, so it's amazing.
Yeah.
So you have a very interesting journey, and I would love to start with the beginning. So my understanding is that you left home early and you stopped school at year 10. What happened after that?
Yeah, so first of all, I was a dancer and I thought I was going to be a ballerina in my life. And so I was very fortunate. I was gifted in the dancing space, and I got into the Queensland Ballet when I was 15. So I left school, so year 11 and 12 I did at Queensland Ballet. And we did schooling, but it was in the afternoon. So we'd dance for like 7 or 8 hours a day, and then we would do schooling from 3 till 5 p.m. in the afternoon. So it was like an excellence program.
Yes.
And so I left school early to do that, and it wasn't until I was in year 12 that I got really bad stress fractures in both of my shins. So I had 10 stress fractures in each shin.
While you were dancing,
While
like
I was
something
dancing.
happened?
Yeah, and it was just over time, you know. I have flat feet, so I was never born to be a dancer, but my heart, I wanted to be a dancer. And anyway, so yeah, after much debate with the doctor was like, you need to stop and you need to leave. And so it was very much a moment of what the hell am I going to do with my life? Because I really thought that's what I was going to do. That's who I was going to be. And so the next part to my story is, you know, my home life was also very challenging. So I grew up in a very challenging domestic violence environment, struggled a lot at home, and I left home actually when I was 17. So that was the next challenge on my journey. I got to a point where I couldn't deal with home life anymore, and I actually wasn't given a choice. All my belongings, I got home from being out with a friend, and all my belongings were on the front lawn in the rain. So furniture, clothes, you name it, everything from my room was on the front lawn. And so in that moment, I picked up everything I could, pretty much just clothes, put it in a country road bag, and I started walking in the rain. And I had no idea where I was going to sleep, no idea where I was going to go. I really only had my immediate family up here. Most of my family's in Melbourne. So I didn't know who to call. I was too ashamed to call friends because no one really knew my situation at home. I was very quiet about it. I really didn't talk to many people at all. And anyway, a few weeks earlier, at like the intro day to university, I'd met a boy. And this boy, we just kind of hit it off. We clicked. I had his phone number in my phone. And I was walking in the rain, and no joke, this was a very spiritual moment. I saw his face like come over me, and I was told to call him. I really didn't know him very well at all, but I just knew I had to call him. And so I did. And anyway, he dropped what he was doing, came and picked me up, which to this day I'm so, so grateful for. And he took me back to his parents' place, which wasn't far from there. And again, very spiritual moment, but his mum was a child psychologist and his dad was a spiritual healer.
Man, when things, you know, are supposed to happen, they are supposed to happen,
Yeah,
you know?
so the universe very much had my back in that moment. And so it completely changed my life. And over the next 18 months, they actually built a room onto their house for me to live. And I worked through so much of my trauma and redirected my life, really. So at that time, I was going to do business and marketing at uni. I hated business at uni, which is so funny now because I'm like, I don't want to do accounting. I don't want to do economics. I don't want to do any of that. So I actually left and became a designer. I was always very creative, obviously being a dancer. I was always good at graphics at school, good at art at school. And so I left that and I went to a private design college and became a graphic designer and worked my way up in a few businesses very quickly, starting as a graphic designer, and then I became, head of marketing globally for companies, and then creative director as well. So yeah, my story started quite grim, but it's
but you have been able to turn it around.
Absolutely, and I think our story is what makes us anyway.
Did you ever think that one day you will be where you are today?
Not back then. Definitely not back then. I will say though, I've always been, and maybe this goes with being a creative, but I've always been a big dreamer.
Yes.
I love to play in the land of imagination and manifestation. I love all of that. And I was always a big dreamer. I'd always had big dreams for my life. But to actually think they'd become a reality, no.
So what happened? When did you decide to have your own creative agency?
Yeah, so literally the minute I left college, I think I was actually still at college, I just have people come to me and say, hey, can you do a business card, or can you do a flyer for me, or whatever. And I was like, sure. So I pretty much started my first business when I was 21. So that was my agent. That was the start of my agency. It was very much freelancing on the side, but it was, it pretty much started straight away. And I always knew I'd be an entrepreneur. Like I knew I would never work for anyone for a long period of time. I just knew that in my gut. I wasn't very good with boundaries and restrictions and playing to someone else's rules.
Yes.
I always knew that about myself. But yeah, so 21 is when it started. And then 25 is when I went out on my own full time. The reason, well, actually, no, that wasn't the real reason was I was made redundant from a role that I absolutely loved. And then I got headhunted by someone on LinkedIn, which was really exciting. And I was going to be the managing director for this fashion company, online up and coming fashion boutique. And it all sounded great, signed the contract. Yes, I'm going to do this. I was hiring, firing, building the platform, doing everything, buying the garments. I did all of it, everything. And 4 months into that project, I was told the investors weren't coming through. So I had actually been paid twice in 4 months. So I'd used up all my redundancy money.
Yes.
And then I was now broke again.
Far out.
And my husband was like, you have to leave. Like if there's no money, why are you working for someone else to build their business? And so like a true entrepreneur, I went, well, I'm not making any money. Might as well start my own thing.
Fair enough.
And yeah, so I did. So 2016 was when I went full-time into my agency.
And from there, there is like, sky is the limit. There is no stopping, I will say. You have different business, always in the creative business, entrepreneurial fields. Where does it come? Do you see a gap somewhere and you're like, oh, actually, I need to cover this gap? How does it come to you?
It's a great question. I have a wild imagination, so I'm often thinking of ideas and different ways of doing things. Yeah, usually it comes from a need of my own. Usually it comes from, I really want that. How can I create that? And I feel like that's the best place for it to come. And I see it with clients as well, because when it comes from a place of you needing or wanting something, there's so much more passion behind it. So yeah, for me, it's, I can wake up ridiculous, like 1, 2 o'clock in the morning, and I'll just have a random idea. And I'll be like, okay, I'll try and sit on it. But usually it's the next day that I'm like, okay, research that. How can I do it? Yeah. But yeah, it's been, the businesses I've had have been an evolution of me, I believe. And have been me navigating my own journey and my own experiences. So yeah. And the Inspired Founders is, I believe, an accumulation of everything I've done. And not to say it's the last thing I'll do, but it is probably the most true reflection of who I am. Yeah.
And I think we can feel it, we can see it, you are really passionate about it, very genuine as well. Like it definitely reflects like that. So you have a lot on your plate, but you're as well a mama, and your kids are still at home. They are young.
Well, they're at school now. They're at school
yeah,
now.
I guess it's
But yes, definitely at home.
But how do you manage all of this?
Yeah, I was only speaking about this with someone the other day, and I don't think there's any right or wrong way. I don't think there's a magic pill. I don't think there's a silver bullet. I think it's just we all manage the best we absolutely can. And I think, you're a testament to that as well. We just have to, for me, managing it, in the early days, it was a real struggle because I always felt like I was letting someone down. I was letting my kids down, I was letting my husband down, I was letting myself down, I was letting my clients down. I couldn't be everything to everyone all the time. And, there was a lot of meltdowns, a lot of tears, a lot of, I can't do this. Until, one day I realized, and I actually asked myself the question, well, what do you actually want, Priscilla? And it was very much a meltdown moment. It was after my second son, and he would have been about 4 months old. I was breastfeeding him in the rocking chair in his room in middle of the night. And I remember just tears streaming down my face going, what am I doing? I'm burning the candle at both ends. I'm actually broke because I'd had a few businesses at that point and I was just pouring money into everything. I was exhausted, and I just went, what do I actually want out of life? Because this is not what I saw for myself. So I had a really big talk with myself, and it was, well, if I'm going to do this, I'm going to design it my way, and I'm going to do it my way. And I'm going to make sure that everything I'm doing actually fully aligns to who I am, my vision, and my values as well. And so I completely flipped my business. I started charging more. I started working less. Completely flipped the model on its head, and that's when everything started to change for me.
I think it's so important what you said. Unfortunately, we often need to go to the wall, to reach this breaking point before.
I was definitely at the point of do I just go back and get a job? This is all too freaking hard.
Yeah. And you are like, okay, this is not working. I definitely need to do something about it. But I don't know. I think there is something with women as well, especially, that will try until the end, until they're like, okay, this is definitely not working. What's the plan B?
Yeah. And I went through a few different plans, plan A, B, and C, what could I do if I went back and got a job, or went part-time, or maybe I just did this on the side, or maybe I got rid of those businesses, or went through all the plans. But my gut knew at the end of the day, I could not ever give up on what I knew I was here to do. And I think as women, like you said, especially, we have so much purpose and passion inside of us. And if we don't allow that to come through and to drive us, I think we end up quite miserable. And I see a lot of women who feel so disconnected. I work with a lot of women now in the mentoring space who are so disconnected from who they actually are, because they've layered all of these, and I did it myself, we're like onions. We put all these layers on ourselves of mum, wife, got to take care of the house, got to do this, got to do that, to the point of we forget who we are as humans. And I think when you can come home to that and you can drive and build a business from that, everything changes.
So true. Yeah. What have you learned from being in this field, your creative space, a mentoring space, that you think people should know?
Yeah, well, I've been in lots of spaces. I am in lots of spaces.
So true.
But if I would say, coming from a overarching entrepreneur perspective, the thing I think people should know is it's not easy. And that sounds really cliche, but you really have to hit the wall and get back up, and be really determined and tenacious to make it happen. And anything worth doing is not easy, really. And I think there's a lot of people, I again work with a lot of women, see a lot of women get, 1, 2, 3 years into business and go, this isn't working. Well, I'm almost 12 years into business, and it took me a good, I reckon, 8 years to really understand who I was as a business owner, as a mum, all the things to make it work and to build it successfully. And so for me, the most important thing is, if you really want to do something, don't give up before you get there. Because you will get there if you keep going.
But you need to keep pushing.
Even
if you don't see the rewards coming.
And usually it's financially, right?
Yes.
People will go, not seeing the financial reward. Well, the financial reward won't come until you get to the point of, one, being in true alignment with yourself, and two, setting up the structures and systems to allow that to happen. And I see so many solo entrepreneurs who it's all on them, everything. And I was once that too. It's very hard to scale a business and to make money when that is the case.
It is, because yes, you want to do everything, but sometimes you don't have the full vision, or you cannot elevate yourself to analyze what's working, what's not working, and where you are wasting time and where you should focus on your time on things. And it's really difficult when you are doing all of this at once. That's very true. So it brings me to this question about coaching, mentoring. I know, or I believe you used to have a coach that helped you a lot.
I've had multiple over the years.
Yeah, I can imagine. Try them all.
Not all of them, but yeah.
And now you are a mentor and you're helping women and business owners to achieve what they want to achieve. What your coaches change for you, and why do you think it's important to have one?
Yeah, look, I put it down to, you think of the top athletes in the world. Every athlete has a coach. And it's the same for business, right? Because 80% of what we do is actually mindset. 80% of being a successful entrepreneur is mindset. And so if you don't have a coach in your corner who can pick you up on down days, who can see things from a different angle, who can bounce ideas with you, you become very quickly isolated on your own, in your own head, and things will move a lot slower. So for me, I've always been passionate. I mean, I told you, when I left home at 17, I went into a house with a spiritual healer and a psychologist. So I've been on a very spiritual but also personal growth journey from a young age. And so it's always been really important for me to listen to things, read books. I'm always working on my mindset. I'm always bettering myself. And I believe a coach helps with that. It's the stuff you don't see. It's the blind spots. And I believe, and that's why I've now gotten into mentoring, because it's been such a powerful component in my life. And also because I love people and I love seeing the best for people. It's why Inspired Founders is called Inspired Founders. Like, I truly want to inspire people to live out their most aligned, beautiful, successful lives. And I feel blessed to have had the life that I have, and to be now able to help other people on their journeys is really, really rewarding.
I was going to ask you this question as well. Why are you passionate about what you do? And is it that to inspire others and look at them and seeing them being prosperous and successful and, achieving their dreams?
Yeah, I would say at the core of everything for me, it is very much seeing people live out their most authentic, true, and successful lives, because I believe that's why we're here. I believe we're here to live our most authentic selves, and through that we all have passions, purpose, gifts that we've been put on this earth for. And to me, it's the most rewarding to see when someone's living that out. And so I want to be on the journey. Well, at the moment it's with women, predominantly with women who know they have a burning desire for more, know they want to create more, do more in this life, because I believe we all have that. It's just whether we acknowledge it and whether we're willing to step into it. And I want to be on the path with the women who are willing to step into it, because they will change the world.
That's really powerful. I have a lot of little gems in this episode. Thank you. I love it. Your son, do they realize what you are doing? Yes?
That's a great question.
Yes.
So I think it's hard with boys because they're so practical. They need to see, even think about husbands, it's very practical and tangible, and they need to see the thing. Whereas we're a bit more like everyone.
Yes.
But no, I will say my eldest son, Digby, there's been so many times, actually it was only recently, and it made me cry, because he said to me, "Mum, do you know you're a leader?" And I was like, "What do you mean, buddy? That's really beautiful." He's like, "People look up to you and you teach people."
Aww, I'm crying.
And I was like, somewhere through maybe seeing me on social media or through what I do, I don't know where he's even picked this up, but for him at 7 years old to put that together and sit down and tell me that, I was like, wow, that is making a difference.
Yes.
And again, like when I opened the podcast studio in Brisbane, they came in when we were building it, and Digby said to me, Mum, I'm so proud of you. So they do see it. They do know it. Which is just blows my mind, because I'm like, how are you putting this together?
Yes.
But they know.
Yeah, and I guess, the energy, they feel it.
Yeah.
It's really beautiful. It's amazing for them to have such a great role model, and feel like nothing is impossible. They are
That's
unstoppable.
the biggest thing for me.
Yes.
Yeah. It's like the world is your oyster. Like, what do you want to do? I'm already talking with Digby about building his first business at the moment. Starting very young. I think we'll just start with e-commerce, keep it simple to start drop shipping or something.
Yes.
But yeah, I talk to my kids a lot about, money mindset, money blocks right now, and business and entrepreneur mindset, because they're not taught it in school at all.
No, I know.
But I believe in the next 5-10 years, that is the way the world will be. So I'm educating them now.
That's very good.
Because I know that's what they will be living in.
Yes. I want to talk briefly about something else, moving from one topic to another. I know community is very important for you, and every single person that I interviewed told me the same thing. Without community, you are not going to succeed.
I agree.
And can you tell me a few words about your community, how you built it, and how it is impacting as well your life?
Yeah, so community has been always really important to me. Again, I love people, so I'm a bit of a socialite as well. Like, I like to be out and about with people and meeting people. So being in branding and marketing for years prior to starting my own agency or going full-time in my agency, I knew that unless I built a community or an audience, no one was going to know about me. I mean, I was just another graphic designer online. So 4 months into starting my agency, I actually started holding business networking events. So, and they were just small at the start. Actually, I probably got like 15 or 20 people to these networking events. They were
Pretty
just
good.
in a bar or a restaurant or wherever we could do a cafe. And I ran them almost fortnightly for like ages. And I would just get business owners in to talk, so different speakers in to talk and educate. But people got to know me because I was the host of these events. And so that was really the start of me building a community. And it happened very early on in the piece because I knew it had to. And I also enjoyed it. And then I built various networks over the years. So I used to run women's fashion shows and like different women's networking events. And so I've built communities over the years, but it's so powerful because if you don't have a community of people who love, trust, follow you, who are you going to sell to? It's that know, like, and trust that's really, really important. And so for me, community's always been number one. Relationships is number one for me in business, always. And then from there, opportunities arise. And that's what I've found over time. So if the people who came to my business networking events back in 2016 still follow me to this day, probably come to Inspired Founders now. It's when you build genuine relationships and connections with people, they will follow you long term. I've had so many different businesses and people have followed and bought from all of them. And I think when you can build that, that's the key.
Yeah, you're winning. Yeah, definitely. What was the most significant turning point in your life, professional life?
Yeah. There's been a few. And I would say probably the one I spoke about earlier with sitting in the rocking chair and having that real conversation with myself, that was definitely a pivotal moment in my business, because if I hadn't have had that conversation with myself, I don't know where I would have been, to be honest. Probably back with the job and just given up. So that was really, really pivotal. I would say the next was when I invested, probably my first chunk investment. So it was about $25,000 into a coaching program. And I would say that for me was really scary. It's not the most I've spent now. I've now spent like $100K. So that was the starting, but this was the first big. This was the first big investment.
Okay.
And it scares people, I know, but you work your way through it. There's different money blocks along the way, and then you get through it.
You can move to the next bit. Yeah, absolutely.
But 25K, it seemed like a lot at the time, but I knew I needed someone to get me to that next level. I knew that I'd kind of reached my own kind of ceiling, mindset-wise, money-wise, strategy-wise, and I was just wanting to learn. And so investing that was probably a really pivotal moment, because it made me realize that when I invest in myself, and when you put the energy into that, you make more money. And I don't know I'm trying to work out a way to explain this to people in simple terms, but when you invest in yourself and you invest a decent sum of money, I don't know what happens or how it works, I call it energetics, more money comes. It's so scary to do it.
It is.
But it works.
Yes, it is so scary. You just don't know if it's the right person, you know? How did you know he was the right coach?
No, you don't.
Yeah.
You've just got to trust your gut.
Yeah, okay.
You've just
Yeah.
got to trust your gut.
Yeah.
And I think, I've had coaches that were absolutely the wrong choice. But through it, I learned something as well. Everything we learn and grow through. And so it's not ever, I believe in business and in life really, it's never about a right or wrong decision. It's about trusting the feeling, following it, and you will learn and grow something, even if it's not maybe what you'd anticipated.
True, that's fair. It's definitely always, I think, even when you fail, you learn. You don't fail, you just learn, you know.
Learn.
You just need to change your mindset and see it differently, because as you say, you will always learn about something. And it will be a lesson, it will be something that you will not do after in the future, whatever it is, but you learn. And learning is so important when you are running a business.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's really helped me as well on my own now coaching journey of like what worked for me, what didn't work for me. How do I want to show up for my clients? What do I want to give my clients? So yeah, it's all good.
Who is the person that inspires you at the moment, and how do they do it?
Yeah, that's a really, I know you asked me this before we jumped on, and I'm trying to think. There's definitely entrepreneurs who inspire me. Marie Forleo is one that I love, and I've followed her for so many years, and I think she's just wonderful and genuine, and if I can aspire to be like anyone, I would say she is brilliant. And she has the dance component as well, which I really love. I've got a friend and very successful entrepreneur, Olivia Carr. She actually spoke at my last event, and I was reading her book on the
I'm coming here.
Yeah, I'm coming here. And she's beautiful. She's got such an incredible story, and she inspires me, when we catch up of, what she's doing, the impact she's making in the world. She now gives back so much in the charity space as well. And so that inspires me. But I also said to you, there's people just on a regular daily basis that I bump into that inspire me. If someone has a moving story and it has gone through adversity in life, or they're on the journey to going to create what they want, in this lifetime, that inspires me. So I would say I'm inspired by people generally.
Very great answer. If you have one piece of advice for my listener who would like to start a business, or just thinking about it, or already having a business but struggling, what would you say?
Keep going, number one. Number two, you don't have to do it all on your own. I think this is a real misconception that I'm starting a business, I need to do it all, I need to know it all, I need to, be the everything. The most powerful thing I ever did was delegate, learnt to delegate. That was really important. And also getting a coach, getting a mentor, even if you're not paying them, find someone who has your back or who you can bounce ideas with, or find a group, that go out for coffee. There's so many networking groups around. So surround yourself with people who inspire you, but also have your back. I think that's the most important thing. You would know if your husband, partner, family members aren't in business, trying to have conversations is like pulling teeth. And so you end up giving up. You end up giving up, and you end up just shutting down, closing doors and going, okay, no one gets me. But then it becomes more and more isolating. So I think surrounding yourself with the right people, and every successful entrepreneur I know, every book I read, every podcast I hear says exactly the same thing. It's surround yourself with the right people. And usually it's the people who inspire you. Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Priscilla, for your time. It was a great interview with a lot of gems. I can't wait to edit it and save this. Thank you for coming. You're coming from Brisbane. You have a big day as well tomorrow here, but thank you so much.
Thank you so much for having me.